In this drill video, we're going to talk about the finger pressure variance drill. This is the connection drill. This is what's connecting what you're holding in your hand into your midsection, the fascial lines running through the midsection. We're going to talk about how we're going to use finger pressure with the top hand, bottom three fingers. We're going to talk about the butterfly grip with the bottom hand, and then varying the top two fingers of the top hand. So let's start with finger pressure. We've talked about it in some other videos, so it can seem kind of redundant, but this is how we would drill this with my hitters. We want to take the top hand and squeeze the bottom three fingers of only the top hand. Okay, this is going to connect our body here. Now the timing of this is important. So in the swing, because kids will just do it from the beginning, or they might even, once they get the bat up into a position, they might squeeze, even the pitcher's not ready to pitch, or squeezing, and by the time the pitcher's getting ready to throw the ball, their hands are all tired. So we want to make sure is they can be loose with the hands, they can open up their hands, you know, open and close their fingers and things like that. They can do this as the pitcher's getting ready, and as the pitcher goes into their windup, then we kind of slow the barrel movement of the bat down. As the hitter starts to pick up their front foot, that's when the squeezing happens. So that's when we squeeze the bottom three of the top hand only, and then we will continue to squeeze all the way through impact and even here. Okay, if they release, if they do a single arm release, then they can do that. But we want to squeeze, now let go. So it's from the time the hitter picks up the front foot all the way through impact. The idea behind this, and this isn't, we're not trying to activate certain muscles and it's going to slow down the swing like a lot of us have probably been taught. What's happening is we're getting this, once this barrel gets in the zone, we're turning it into, maybe it might be going a little slower. It might be a freight train going 30 versus a motorcycle going 60 miles an hour. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to transfer, once that ball hits the bat, there's going to be a compression force that's going to go into the hand. Okay, by the time that compression force gets back out here, that ball's already gone. So what matters is once that ball hits the bat, what kind of foundation do I have on this bat? And if I'm loose with my hands, like we're all taught, be loose with the hands, be loose, because loose muscles are faster muscles, that's not the case here. We want to make sure that we're getting our skeletal structure taking the impact of this ball, because that's all that really matters. We never really get to transfer, once that, again, that signal comes down and it gets back up here to that ball, ball's gone already, so it doesn't really matter. So we want to make sure that when that ball hits a bat, boom, this is solid down here. And we want that ball feeling like it's hitting a piece of cement versus a pool wet noodle, okay? So we want to have top hand, bottom three fingers. Another reason why this is, it's not a bottom hand thing, is because when you try and pull something across your body, say pull a human being across your body versus trying to push a human being away from you, you're going to have much more strength this way than you are pulling across. So it's mostly that top hand. So that begs the question, well, what's a bottom hand doing? So what I tell my hitters to do is to act like, use the butterfly grip. So act like they have a butterfly in their hand that they don't want to crush. They're just trying to keep it from flying away, but they don't want to hurt it. Okay, so that's the kind of grip we want on with the bottom hand. And the same thing, it's all the way from the time that they pick up the foot all the way through impact. We want that top hand squeezing hard, bottom three fingers of the top hand. Okay, and the last thing, how we train this is just as important as the actual technique that we're practicing. Now what I want you to do with your hitters is to go in 5 swing increments. It's easier for a 7 or 8-year-old, and if it's easy for them, it's easier for your high school, college, and pro guys. Swing in 5 swing increments, they can remember each swing. They can remember, or at least as they'll get better at it, but 5 to 7 digits are what our brains are better at remembering. So they can remember what happened on each swing a little bit better than just taking 20 swings and being like, well, what happened on swing 2 and 3 and 4? They're not going to remember that. So you can do 5 swing rounds and just practice right off, just having them squeeze. Practice bottom three of the top hand, and just have them from the time they pick their front foot up to all the way through impact, keeping that thing squeezed as hard as they can for 5 swings. Ask them some questions, how it felt, which ones did they feel like they did it better on. Most likely when you introduce this to younger kids, they're not going to be doing it correctly. They think they are, but they're not. So you as a coach, parent, or instructor, listen to the sound of impact. You'll notice a difference when they do it right. That impact will be a lot harder, and you'll see ball exit speeds register a lot higher, and they'll be more frequent, higher ball exit speeds. So not only hitting the high note, but consistently hitting the high note. If you hear an impact that doesn't sound really good, most likely they let go with this hand. If we're hitting, say, off of the tee or soft toss or whatnot, obviously if you're hitting live, it might get jammed or whatnot. There's other factors that go into live. But if you're working on this off of a tee or soft toss, a little bit more controlled environment, if you're not hearing impact sound very good, most likely they're losing this. So you need to really get them feeling that, exaggerating it. So from the time they pick that foot up, squeeze, 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 all the way until they are all the way past impact. It's like way past impact. So you want to get them to exaggerate it. Once they got it, then what you can do, as you're doing that on all 5 swings, you're getting them to bottom 3 fingers of the top hand, then vary it a little bit. So we're going to practice it right and we're going to practice it wrong. So how I do this with my hitters is the 5 swings, we'll take 1, 3, and 5, the odd swings, and we'll have them practice it correctly. So finger pressure, bottom 3 fingers of the top hand. They'll take their swings, and then on swings 2 and 4, what they're going to do is they're going to do the reverse. So they're going to squeeze the thumb and the forefinger, and they're going to relax the bottom 3. They're going to take their swings that way. And you're going to ask them after they're done swinging, well, did you feel a difference between 1, 3, 5 and 2 and 4? And if they did, great. That means they probably did it correctly. If they didn't, if it felt what I call a little bit more gray, like they all kind of blended together, then your next question is, well, did it feel more like you were squeezing the bottom 3 of the top hand, or were you squeezing more of the top 2, the thumb and the forefinger, for all 5? So then that answer to that question will help you to guide where they need to be. But you can start again with the first 5, squeezing the bottom 3 of the top hand on all of them, and then to make it a little harder and progress it, you can do 1, 3, 5, or the odd swings where they're squeezing, doing it right, bottom 3 of the top hand, and then 2 and 4, you can have them squeeze the top 2, the thumb and forefinger, and see how those feel. Hopefully we feel a difference there. So you can move them from just a dry swing to the tee to soft toss to live toss, doing those variances. So in this drill, we talked about the finger pressure variance drill. This is where we connect what we're holding in our hand, which is the bat, with the midsection, the fascial lines going throughout the midsection. We talked about the bottom 3 fingers of the top hand is our finger pressure. We talked about the butterfly grip with the bottom hand, and then talked about how to progress and vary using squeezing the top 2 fingers on, say, the odd swings if you're doing 5 total swings. We'll see you in the next drill video.